Hello students, welcome to E-PG Pathshala. I am Dr. Himanshu Arora from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today we are going to start a module titled Aging and Institutionalization from the paper Biosocial Gerontology. Let's start with the learning objectives of the module. After going through this module, you will able to understand the concept of aging and age-related changes. You will able to understand meaning and relevance of institutionalization of elderly. You will able to comprehend factors responsible for increasing institutionalization among elderly, and you will be able to compare institutionalized and home-based elderly. Now, we will study aging and age-related changes. Aging includes biological, social, and psychological changes with advancing age. Old age is associated with ill health, physical and sensory impairments, heightened sensitivity, and increased susceptibility to disease. Some important biological changes with age includes decline in stature, lung functions, muscular strength, and other body organ systems. The body weight and adiposity increases significantly till about 6th decade and declines thereafter. The initial increase could be due to more energy intake and less energy expenditure. A common phenomenon with aging and later decline is attributed to a decrease in lean body mass. There are transformation in the status and role of the elderly in terms of socioeconomic dimensions as well as in their psychological status with an advancing age. In India, as in other Oriental and developing countries, the family meets the social, economic, and emotional needs of its family members. The family support is found to be the important factor for socio-psychological well-being of the elders. Older people enjoy a sense of honor, authority, and authority had the responsibility of decision making in family and community. The joint family system in India helped prevent some of the problems of the aged. The aged continue to enjoy their status because of ownership of the property in their names. However, as a result of the education, economic independence, and changing value systems, the young people sometimes clash with the aged because of the generation gap. Economic inadequacy, absence of social security for the aged, and nuclear family further aggravated their social and economic status. The older generation is caught between the decline in tradition values on one hand and the absence of adequate social security system on the other. The transition to modern society has dealt a blow to the social institutions like joint family. Disintegration of joint family and increasing migration due to changing socio-economic scenario has generated the need for institutionalized care of the elderly. Now we will discuss meaning and relevance of institutionalization of elderly. In India, the population of old citizens has grown from 12.1 million in 1901 to 103.2 million in 2011. The population of elderly in India ranks second in the world, with a continuous increase in number of the elderly. An increase in the disability and disease cannot be ignored. Many elderly in the later years suffers from disability, either physical or mental or both. Physical disability includes impairment of skills in performing self-help activities, and psychological disability manifest due to impairment in cognitive functions, that is memory, understanding ability, concentration, perceptual orientation disturbances, etc. These incapabilities in performing self-help activities cause dependence and associated problems. In view of increasing elderly share and growing healthcare demands, old age care needs are going to rise and it seeks serious attention. The need for public policies for increasing demand for caregivers is one of the priority issue for long-term care. Financing healthcare is a major issue faced by all the countries with an aging population. Lack of a trained workforce for elderly care is another crucial factor in the development of long-term care system. It is important that policymakers understand the need of these services and the role they can play in the long term care of the elderly. Caregiving for the elderly will require both formal and informal care and adequate systems for supporting the care providers. Care in the old age homes ranges from comfortable stay with medical care to the level of just roof above the heads and a piece of bread to consume. There are more than 1012 old age homes in India, and their numbers are continuously increasing. In India, the age of 60 years is the eligibility criteria for admission to an old age home. In many countries, including India, institutional care carries a social stigma and is thought to be the last resort by the older persons and their caregivers. The formal care institutions like old age homes, nursing homes, and other forms of institutional care should be viewed as a part of a continuum because there are times when institutional care is the only resort. Elderly move to institutions or their old age homes due to the reasons like they have no relatives to take care of them. Thus, the individuals who see alternative accommodation due to isolation or loneliness may shift to old age homes. Other factors responsible for erosion of social support networks and shifting of the elderly to the old age home includes increased migration of the younger generations, increased female work participation, and a shift in values towards commercialism and individualism. Asia, with a huge number of older people, mostly women, with dementia, is a big challenge and is a stage which often requires institutionalization. State plays an important role in providing formal care to the elderly in the Western societies. The welfare state policy first appeared in Germany and Britain, and their governments have instituted compulsory universal coverage of pension and health insurance. However, in developing nations like India, elderly from unorganized sectors are left with insufficient welfare measures. However, institutionalization of elderly population in India is gaining importance as an alternative old age care. Numerous institutions which take care of elderly in India are managed by government, voluntary organization, and charitable institutions which provide them full-time residential care with some facilities. Old age homes and family setup, a comparative assessment. Profile of elderly males and females staying in old age home and in family setup were compared. In their study, the elderly, both staying in institutions and in families, belonged to middle class socio-economic status. The lifestyle in old age homes was reported to be distinct from those staying in families. Elderly staying with families were observed to have no regular diet patterns as well as fixed timings or diet intake, unlike those staying in institutions. The residents of old age homes, both males and females, had plenty of leisure time which they used to spend in reading magazines or newspapers, chatting with peers, in religious activities, practicing yoga, and most of time relaxing in their beds. They used to be visited by few relatives, which was not a frequent phenomenon. On the other hand, the elderly staying in families, especially females, had very little free time available because most of the time they were busy with their household chores and some males were involved with the family business. Other elderly males staying with families had no defined roles or rest schedule. They spent most of their time in local temples, idly sitting with each other. Some of the elderly female staying with the family participating in voluntary physical exercises, whereas a large number of women in old age homes were not involved with any type of habitual physical activity, which was virtually non existent in them, unlike females living in the families. Males staying with families were mostly morning walkers, few took to other forms of exercise as well. The institutionalized aged males were found to be more relaxed and spent most of their time in front of television sets or chatting with their peers, but mostly stayed away from physical work. The males in old age homes as well as in family setting were more particular about their diet and consequently had lesser digestive system related problems. Main complaint of the elderly in both old age homes and those in families was a feeling of loneliness and dejection. They expected someone who could sit patiently and listen to them. Smoking level was relatively higher among free living males than institutionalized males. The females in institutionalized group had higher education level and majority retired from government services or from private jobs, unlike non-institutionalized aged group females, where very few had education up to high school and rarely up to graduate level, and majority of them remained housewives all through their life. There are several studies which render support the sexual dimorphism in fatness and an age-related obesity increase till about 7th decade followed by a decline. Body mass index, a method to assess the fatness in human beings, is the most commonly used index of obesity or overweight, underweight, or normal weight. In institutionalized aged males, the BMI increased in 65 years and above elderly and declined thereafter slightly. In females, the BMI value increased with age both in institutionalized and non institutionalized categories. The shift from gynoid to android fat pattern with age, especially after menopause, was also found. Greater increase of blood pressure in women after menopause could be attributed to hormonal influence, especially the reduction in estrogen. The prolonged estrogen deficiency may predispose older women to an increase in blood pressure, secondarily to an accumulation of subcutaneous fat. Reduction in lung function is another important aspect with advancing age. The magnitude of decline in the lung function was reported more in institutionalized aged males than non-institutionalized aged males. The greater decline in lung functions among elderly males staying in the families could be related to their smoking habits, and among elderly families staying in the old age homes could be due to their more sedentary lifestyle. The major age related physiological changes in the lungs are the loss of elastic recoil, stiffness of rib cage, which increases with age. The inspiratory muscle lose strength, perhaps due to other age related changes like rib decalcification, rib cartilage calcification, changes in shape of the chest, and narrowing of intervertebral disc space. These anatomical changes are found to be responsible for reduction in chest wall compliance at the age of 50 years and above, so that at the age of 60 years, the chest wall recoil would amount to 30 to 40% of the recoil of the respiratory system at full inflation. The lung tissue and chest wall loosen their elasticity with age. Moreover, there is decline in mobility with age and decline in efforts in breathing. The aging of most of the body organ system is the result of many factors, including the natural aging process, prior disease, lifestyle like smoking, nutrition, exercise and fitness level, socioeconomic status, occupation and polluted environment exposure, and ethnic origin. With age, the predominance of upper body fat increased in both males and females, with the pattern most distinct in males. Numerous studies suggested that distribution of fat is as important as measuring the amount of fat because it is associated with many cardiovascular risk factors. The distribution pattern, subcutaneous fat as assessed from skin fold thickness ranking, was indicative of a trunk fat predominance in males in all the age groups. In females, an age-related redistribution of body fat in favor of android pattern as compared to gynoid pattern in young age. The systolic blood pressure rose with age in both males and females. The age-related increase in blood pressure was more in elderly females as compared to elderly males. The females in old age homes have been reported to have higher blood pressure as compared to their contemporaries in the family setup. whereas reverse trend was reported with respect to elderly males in both the kind of setup. The lung functions and muscular strength was better in females in family setup than those staying in old age homes, whereas reverse trend was obtained for elderly males. The lung functions declined with age with more marked decline in females. Sexual dimorphism was in favor of males at all age. Age is an important independent variable and may be used to assess various lung functions in the aged. The level of physical activity, that is habitual and voluntary, could be felt on the muscular strength in both male and females, with more active ones having better grip strength. Aged males reported more respiratory system related problems and consequently had lower lung functions than elderly females of comparable ages. The higher anxiety levels among females in the institutions and males in the family setup are reflected in them having higher blood pressure than their counterpart. The very concept of an old age home is new to India. An old age home is usually the place, a home for those old people who have no one to look after them or those who have been thrown out of their homes by their children. The place is, of course, like home, where the inmates get all the facilities for a routine living like food, clothing, and shelter. There are many old age homes in India for the senior citizens to give them shelter and support in their old times. Homes for senior citizens have supported the old people to live their last days in peace. There are various reasons so far witnessed for the increasing number of old age homes in the society. All these necessities are well looked after, but the much needed love and care of the loved ones is, of course, sadly missing. For how can outsiders provide solace? In these homes, it is very interesting and even touching to talk to people, whether they are men or women. But the major concern is the reason of increasing number of these old age homes in India, where there is a different traditional and cultural value altogether as compared to other Western countries. General feelings of the elderly women living in the families has better position than that of elderly women of the institution. Better social relations were maintained by the family dwellers because they have regular interaction, expressions of feelings, and support from the family. The existing condition of the elderly women living in the institution was that they felt lonelier, depressive, and had a lower level of satisfaction with life. In this context, the need for preserving our tradition of a joint family and the mutual cooperation and understanding between the younger and the older generations could be more pressing. The situation calls for concerned efforts of the government, non government organizations, religious institutions, and individuals not only to understand but also to solve. Old age home is a life supporting place for elderly in a situation where they have no other option to live of living space with requisite facilities, that is food, medical support, and so forth. In old age homes, elderly miss their grandchildren and children. The elder people who were at their own family are mentally better, as most of them do get requisite support and help from their immediate family members. The family network of relationship supported psychological well-being of elderly. In Indian culture, old age homes does not promote a happy living and happy ending of post-retirement life. Old age home makes elderly rootless, and it could not be ultimate alternative for happy ending of this respectful section of the society. Now we will summarize what we have studied till now. With advancement of age, there are many morphological and physiological changes. Study of these biological, sociological, and physiological changes constitute aging. The traditional social system accommodate the elder as the head of the family and shower due to respect on them. However, With the breakdown of the traditional joint family system and increasing modernization and westernization, there is degradation of family respect and care towards the elderly. This has given rise to the concept of institutionalization or the concept of old age homes in India. The quality of care they receive in old age homes arises according to their paying capacity. The care ranges from comfortable stay with medical care to the level of just roof above the heads and a piece of bread to consume. The key problem areas of the aged are loss of status, income, health, company, independence, and life. Death does not come suddenly to most of us. Instead, it slowly wears down our looks, face, health declines, hair and teeth begin to fall, and our mind gets dim. Gradually, an individual becomes dependent for complete care. Old age is fact of life in all human societies, but the perception of life old, however, varies. Many changes attributed to aging are seen as a result of disease, and even in absence of the disease, there are important changes in the functioning with age. Aging is associated with decline in both physical and mental health of an individual. The body undergoes physical changes which cannot be totally stopped, but some intervention no doubt are possible. Regular exercise and healthy diet can slow down the body's natural aging process. Different type of care mechanism is received by the elder staying in the old age homes and those staying in the family setup. The lifestyle in institutions for old people and in the families differ with respect to dietary habits, physical activity, medical and health care. The reciprocation could be made better by interacting with elders, performing recreational activities like singing, playing, conducting indoor games, and counseling for the elders to overcome worries. The old age homes may organize field trips for the elderly to places having historical and religious significance. College and school students from nearby educational institutions can be motivated to make frequent visits to the old age homes and exchange their thoughts and ideas with the elderly as a part of educational activities. Formulation of an exclusive national policy on old age pension and other benefits to the elderly need to be introduced by the government and communicated to the elderly for better awareness. Elderly are recommended to plan for their retirement in terms of economic security and investment opportunities. Proper legal safeguard of property in terms of will and documentation through professional consultations are needed in order to have sound socio-economic status that can promote healthy aging. Institutions for the aged are mushrooming since 1990s in India. As people live longer, they often suffer from general poor health or disabilities over long periods, increasing the overall need for health care. The old age home can be taken as an alternative in the exclusive cases for the elderly with a chronic illness and for those elderly who have no caregivers. However, the care of elderly in the family setting is a better choice in order to make senior citizens move to a dignified life in their later years and the family, especially the younger generation, to get reciprocated by their wisdom and experience. Thank you.